I know Petal's not thinking of me, and yet I can still feel his beautiful eyes gazing at me and his cool, soft cheek against mine. Oh, Petal. Petal! How am I ever going to free myself from your image? Wouldn't anyone who took your place be a poor substitute? I love you with a love so great that it simply couldn't keep growing inside my heart, but had to leap out and reveal itself in all its magnitude. A week ago, even a day ago, if you asked me which of your friends do you think most you'd be likely to marry, I've had answer Sally since he made me feel good, peaceful and safe. But now I'd cry Petal because I love him with all my heart and all my soul. I surrender myself completely, except for the one thing. He may touch my face, but that's as far as it goes. This morning I imagined I was in the front attic with Petal, sitting on the floor by the windows, and after talking for a while, we both began to cry. Moments later, I felt his mouth and his wonderful cheek. Oh, Petal, come to me. Think of me, my dearest Petal. Wednesday, January 12th, 1944. Dearest Kitty, Beb's been back for the last 2 weeks, though her sister won't be allowed to back to school until next week. Beb herself spent 2 days in bed with a bad cold. Miep and Jan also out for 2 days with upset stomachs. I'm currently going through a dance and ballet craze, and I'm diligently practicing my dance step every evening. I've made ultra-modern dance costume out of a lacy lavender petticoat belonging to Mumsy. Tape is threaded through the top and tied just above the bust. A pink cork ribbon completes the ensemble. I tried to turn my gym shoes into ballet slippers, but with no success. My stiff limbs are well on the way to becoming as supple as they used to be. A terrific exercise is to sit on the floor, place a heel in each hand, and raise both legs in the air. As I sit down on the cushion, because otherwise my poor backside rarely takes a beating, everyone here is reading a book called A Cloudless Morning. Mother thought it was extremely good because it describes a number of adolescent problems. I thought to myself a bit ironically, why don't you take more interest in your own adolescent first? I think Mother believes that Margaret and I have a better relationship with our parents than anyone in the whole wide world, and that no mother is more involved in the lives of her children than she is. She must have my sister in mind, since I don't believe Margaret has the same problem as I thought I do. Far be it from me to point out to Mother that one of her daughters is not at all what she imagines. She'd be completely bewildered, and anyway, she'd never be able to change. I'd like to spare her that grief, especially since I know that everything would remain the same. Mother does sense that Margaret loves her much more than I do, but she thinks I'm just going through a phase. Margaret's much nicer. She seems a lot different than she used to be. She's not nearly as catty these days, and is becoming a real friend. She no longer thinks me as a little baby who doesn't count. It's funny because I can sometimes see myself as others see me. I can take leisurely look at the persons called Annie Frank and browse through the pages of her life as though she was a stranger. Before I came here, when I didn't think about these things about as much as I do now, I occasionally had the feeling that I didn't belong to Mumsy, Pim and Margaret, and that I would always be an outsider. I sometimes went around for 6 months at a time pretending I was an orphan. Then I'd chastise myself for playing the victim when really I'd always been so fortunate. After that, I'd forced myself to be friendly for a while every morning when I heard footsteps on the stairs. I hoped it would be Mother coming to say good morning, I'd greet her warmly because I'd honestly did look forward to her affectionate glance, but then she'd snap at me for having made some comment or other, and I'd go off to school feeling completely discouraged. On the way home, I'd make excuses for her, telling myself that she had so many worries. I'd arrive home in high spirits, chatting 19 dozen, to the dozen until the events of the morning would repeat themselves, and I'd leave the room with my with my satchel in my hand and a pensive look on my face. Sometimes I'd decide to stay angry, but when I always have so much to talk about after school that I'd forget my resolution and want mother to stop whatever she was doing and lend a willing ear. Then the time would come once more when I could no longer listen for the steps on the stairs and felt lonely and cried into my pillow every night. Everything has gotten much worse here, but you already know that. Now God has sent someone to help me. Peter, I fondle my pendant, press it to my lips and think, what do I care? Petal is mine, and nobody knows it. With this in mind, I can rise above every nasty remark. Which of the following here would suspect that so much is going on in the mind of a teenage girl? Saturday, January 1944. Saturday, January 15, 1944. My dearest Kitty, there is no reason for me to go on the describing all our quarrels and arguments down in the last details. It's enough to tell you that we've divided many things like meat and fats and oils and frying our own potatoes. Recently, we've been eating a little extra bread because by 4 o'clock we're so hungry for dinner we can barely control our rumbling stomachs. Mother's birthday is rapidly approaching. She received some extra sugar from Mr. Kugler, which sparked of jealousy on the part of the Vandans because Mrs. Vandy didn't receive any for on her birthday. But what's the point of boring you with harsh words, spiteful conversation, and tears when you know they bore us even more? Mother has expressed a wish which isn't likely to come true any time soon. Not to have to see Mr. Vanden's face for 2 whole weeks. I wonder if everyone who shares a house sooner or later ends up at odds with their fellow residents, or have we just had a stroke of bad luck? At mealtime, when Dussel helps himself to a quarter of the half-filled gravy boat and leaves the rest of us to do without, I lose my appetite and feel like jumping to my feet, knocking him off his chair, and throwing him out of the door. At most people so stinky Are most people so stinky and selfish? I've gained some insight into human nature since I came here, which is good, but I've had enough for the present. Peter says the same. The war is going to go on despite our quarrels and our longings for freedom and fresh air, so we should try to make the best of our stay here. I'm preaching, and I also believe that if I live here more longer, I'll turn